So this is going to be my 13 and 14 week update. I'm going to do a belly shot because I've sat here and done two videos so far. And I've yet to show my belly. So I'm going to move you around. So now that I moved you, this is 14-week belly bump. On the front, you can kind of see my belly button stretching. And to the side, I got just like a bralette on today. But that is the bump. I'm gonna move you. These last 2 weeks, we've had 2 appointments. We had one with our regular OB, and then one with the maternal fetal medicine doctor within like 5 days of each other. So we went to our basically 12-week appointment with the regular OB, and babies looked great. Everything looked good. She got their heart rates. We listened to their heart rates. And she basically put me on a baby aspirin to help with decreasing the chances of getting preeclampsia. Just because now that I'm carrying twins, it increases the risk for that, increases the risk for gestational diabetes, increases the risk for everything. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And she was like, we're going to send out a referral to the maternal fetal medicine doctor, the high-risk doctor, for you to be able to go see him. And I was like, okay. And I knew that there was a few in the area, so I was just like, I really don't care who I go see. I've like met them all at some point during my schooling. And she was like, okay, that's great. So she said we're going to send out those papers today. You'll probably hear from them in like a week or two. Because they try to like get you closer into the second trimester before they see you for the first time. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Then we did the Panorama genetic panel. Being a nurse, which is so hard. Like, this is so hard. Because I don't like other people taking my blood. I don't like other people taking my blood pressure. I don't like other people doing anything to me medically. Now that I am a nurse, I'm like, no, I'll do it. And nothing against my doctor's nurses. Like, they have been great. They have been so much fun to talk to and to chit chat with and whatnot. But I was kind of really upset with this whole genetic panel thing. She had to stick me 3 times to get blood. And ended up having it with a butterfly needle, basically blowing my vein, and basically to the point where I would breathe in and blood would come out. And I was like, that's gonna hemolyze. So I'm like, I'm looking at her and I'm telling her that, and she's like, oh no, it should be fine. And I'm like, no, it's not. She's like, well, if I open up another one, you may have to pay $300 extra. And I was like, why? Because you can't take my blood correctly. But I didn't get that nasty. However, Patrick and I did have the conversation before all of this, my husband and I, about if we even wanted to do a genetic panel. And the only thing I wish you could do the genetic panel, like, and find out their genders without having to do the rest. Like, you're totally up to whatever God gives you, kind of thing. And it's not because I don't trust science. I mean, obviously I'm a nurse. I trust science. But there's just so much that I've read and researched and know people that some of those panels come back and they have, XYZ wrong with the baby. My brother literally said that he was never going to be able to walk, that his spina bifida was so severe that he was never going to walk, and the man's walking and has like 4 kids. So it's so confusing. I know a lot of my friends, they said that their kids were having issues and they come out and they're perfectly fine. So I was like, I have too much anxiety. Like, I just kind of don't want to know. And I'm like, and also we're going to go see the maternal fetal medicine doctor. And I was like, and he does scans, so like I can visibly see with my eyes if something's wrong. So I was like, but I still wanted to find out the genders. Well, of course, because I had already kind of had an inkling that it wasn't going to work out. A week later, we ended up going to our fetal medicine doctor appointment, which was kind of crazy. Like, they called me on a Friday and they were like, hey, can you be here on Tuesday? And I was like, okay, that's quick. So we went to that appointment, and while we were in that appointment is when the OB-GYN office called. I was like, hey, your panel came back with like too many abnormalities. So they stopped doing this, like the tests. So yeah, there could be like a bajillion and 5 different reasons why it shows that though. But Panorama is supposed to be for multiples. And I was like, yeah. So of course, like, minor freak out, for a few minutes. Cause I was like, okay, cause we weren't expecting the test results for like another week. So I was just like, okay, what do we do now? And she was like, well, have you seen the maternal medicine doctor? I was like, yeah, we like literally just left his office. Like, you called while we were there. And she was like, oh, well, did he have any concerns? And I was like, no. And she's like, oh, okay then. She's like, I'll send him the paperwork and see what he wants to do. She's like, but if you want to, like, they don't want to run your blood again through Panorama. So the only other thing that she's like, I know that we could do, but the high risk doctor may have another choice, is doing, an amniocentesis. And I kind of immediately was like, no. No, and if anybody does not know what an amniocentesis is, go ahead and look it up. I have been there for one of them, given it was not multiples. So I can't even imagine. But there was other stuff going on with the mom at the time. She was already spinal tapped, so she had no pain. The baby couldn't feel any pain. The baby was kind of like a little bit drowsy from all the medicine that mom was getting. And it was already being highly monitored. Mom was going to be in the hospital for a little while. Some of these amniocentesis, you literally go in and it's like a doctor office visit. So I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. So she was like, okay. She's like, well, I'm going to send it over to the maternal fetal medicine doctor and see what he says. And I was like, okay, that's really fine. So while we were with the high risk doctor though, Patrick was able to come to my appointment, which I didn't even call and ask at that point because he'd been able to go to my other OB's office, which, given there's 2 hospitals in this town, so we were going to one with OB, but the high risk doctors at the other hospital both have level 2 NICUs. So that was my big decision, choosing to go to this town, which obviously is a little bit farther away. Because if we end up having to have a NICU stay, they most likely will be able to stay there. They won't have to like transfer us out to like Dallas or something. Because that is the ultimate goal, is not to have to go out that way. So we did the ultrasound, got wonderful pictures and measurements of baby B, who is on my left. Baby A on my right though was not having it. Literally tried to curl up in a ball and tried to like shove back down my cervix. When we started it, they were butt to butt and their head was sitting like this, and the ultrasound tech is like, oh, do you know that you have a heart-shaped uterus? Like right now how it's sitting, it looks like a heart shape. And I was like, oh, is it because how the babies are laying? She's like, no. She's like, watch as we continue on and the babies move around. And I was like, okay. Well, then baby A like started pushing baby B up. So baby A went under baby B, and was trying to get away, and we were trying to do measurements and stuff. So if you've never been to a high-risk doctor, one of the big markers that they look for is the back of the neck of the baby, and they measure from like the spinal column to the back of their neck to see if there's any bulging of the spinal column or any blebbing of that skin or anything that kind of shows that there's inflammation. And that basically can show that there's some sort of chromosomal or abnormality going on within the baby. Something's not developing correctly. That's kind of like a marker, I guess, of that. So that ultrasound was like 40 minutes. It was pretty lengthy. But we finally got all of our measurements and stuff like that, and the doctor looked it over. We went and sat in his office, and he came in, and he was like, everything looks great. And at that point, Patrick and I were talking about, like, should I call the other doctor or should I wait till we're done? And I was like, no, let's wait till we're done. You know, this is kind of his job. Because we were both kind of worried why they were calling so soon when we hadn't expected them to call this early. So we just kind of waited for the high-risk doctor to come talk to us. And he was like, all their measurements look good. He's like, I don't have any concerns as of right now. He's like, I got to give you the spiel about being pregnant with twins and, you know, what that can all entail. You know, are you already started on the baby aspirin? Yes. You know, you're taking your prenatals? Yes. He's like, you know, you can have preeclampsia. You can have the gestational diabetes because you do have 2 placentas. You know, they're giving off all these hormones that, you know, F up your life while you're pregnant. So I was like, yeah. And he was like, are you using compression socks? And I said, yep. If I'm up and moving around, like getting up and not having ample time to be able to put up my feet, I wear compression socks. I'm like, I'm a nurse, so like I know like my feet swelling and varicose veins ain't in it for me. So not doing that. He asked about my family, you know, about their pregnancies, which given Patrick and I have no family that has twins. His mom did get once pregnant with twins, but she lost one of the twins, and that his sister came out of. So that's the only like genetic thing. But like on my side, I have a set of twins, but they were kind of like medically helped to have twins. So it doesn't really count. So being natural twins and stuff like that, he was like, you know, that's kind of amazing and everything like that. But he was just like, I don't see an issue right now. He basically kind of explained to us that we'll be back to see him again at our 20-week mark in June, and then we'll see him every 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks after that. I think it's every 3 weeks till I get to 30 weeks, and then at 30 weeks we'll see him once a week. And it's kind of the same schedule with the OB, so they're kind of almost the same. So that you know, was kind of nice. And then he basically just explained to me that you know, he doesn't like to induce, he doesn't like to do C-sections if he has to, you know, avoid it. But you know, he said kind of the ball at this point is in your court, you know, to how big your body can get, how big the babies can get, and what your body will maintain. He goes, after that 30 weeks, he's like, literally, I'm just checking to see if your body is still growing. He said, because there's a point where the body just stops growing, and then your body's just like, yep, nope, taking these babies out. Like, no room, been too big, too long, and says sayonara. So he's like, you know, sometimes at 32 weeks, we start you on some steroid shots. He's like, if I can kind of see that you're not getting any bigger, or that you're just so uncomfortable, he's like, you know, we try to prep the babies as best we can. We try to cook them as long as we can. And he's like, but sometimes that doesn't work, especially when there's multiples. So, that was really nice. He answered a few of my questions that I had. But at that point, seeing 2 OBs, I've had no conflicting information, which has been nice. They were both just like, I asked about the weight gain with the high risk doctor. You know, I said, you know, that was really pushed by my other doctor. I said, you know, and basically everything I've read, you know, basically does say like the more protein and the more food that I can intake, obviously because I'm feeding 3 people, will help. And he was like, yep, totally. So he was super nice. He has yet to call us back about the genetic testing. I'm not really too worried about it. It's not something on the top of my head. Just because I saw all the organs that needed to be seen and like them functioning properly. So, I don't know. A lot of people think that I'm really crazy about that, but, I don't know. That's just how I feel right now about it. I mean, that may change, with twin pregnancies, with any multiple pregnancies, or even a singleton pregnancy, things can change very quickly. So we just got high hopes that these little 2 will rock it in there. The only thing everybody's been really berating me about is finding out the genders. And it's not like neither Patrick or I don't want to find out the genders, like we do. But when we went to the high-risk doctor, she was almost like 100% on what baby B was. But since baby A was not cooperating and like kept moving baby B, so I think we're just gonna have to wait. We have another appointment the first week of May. So if we don't find out by then, Patrick said that we can book a private 3D/4D ultrasound place, and find out. Because they have those packages like where they are like 100%, we will tell you what the genders are, even if it takes us like 4 hours. So, and I've contacted a few of them being like, hey, this is my situation. Like, if I come to you, can we find out like 100%? And they were like, yes. So I was like, okay. Because Patrick has yet to let me buy anything kind of baby related. Like, he's let me like here and there, but nothing super baby related. We also do need to move because this is our spare bedroom, and obviously my desk is in here, his desk is in here, and these can't fit in our bedroom. So that is also on our radar and kind of a high priority behind staying healthy and having 2 little babies. But yeah, besides just the general tiredness and drinking, and when I eat now, I can't eat a whole meal. I can eat half of a meal. So that is something that really like kind of messed with my mind for a little bit, because like I could sit and eat like a whole bowl of soup. I could eat, you know, like a normal portion of something, and now I can't even eat that. So it kind of messed with my brain a little bit for a while, because I had some medical issues before that, like I had to gain a lot of weight after a surgery, because I had lost so much weight. So now I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose weight and these babies are going to be malnutritioned because I can't eat. So, yeah. There have been like some anxiety moments, where I just get like super anxious about just some like general normal things, like doing certain things and whatnot. And, you know, Patrick has been the most wonderfulest, supportivest person in the world. And it's just kind of calmed me down and confirmed that, you know, both of the babies are good. I've yet to find them on a fetal Doppler at home, but with the way that every time we go to an ultrasound, they act, I'm surprised I am even trying to find them. So, which, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I know a lot of people, they say like not to buy the home Dopplers because, you know, if you can't find the heartbeat, you freak out. Well, I mean, I'm 14 weeks according to the doctors. They put my due date as October 24th. But according to my last menstrual cycle, I'm 15 weeks in 2 days. So, I don't know. the high risk doctor said there was a chance that they are identical, so that they were one egg, one sperm, and they split, and literally split so far that they got 2 separate placentas and 2 separate sacs, which he said is very rare, but it's not uncommon. But he said it's on the rarer side of things. So I could care less as long as they got 10 little fingers, 10 little toes, 2 sets of lungs, a heart, you know, all of their parts. Could care less. Could care less. And Patrick's on that boat with me. But he gets excited talking to them. The other night he was like I'll lay in bed and he'll like talk to my belly, because, you know, now they can like hear us and stuff. So he was like talking to them and like kind of like tickling my belly a little bit. And I really had to pee, so I was like, don't do that, or like, I'm gonna wet the bed, and I don't want to do that this early just yet, because it may happen later on. And he was just kind of joking, and he was like, oh really, you're gonna pee the bed if I continue this? And so then he went like back at tickling my belly, and literally one of them like kicked right up at his face, given he can't feel it yet, and he didn't feel it, but I felt it. And I was like, oh God, Patrick. And he's terrified to feel them. When my sister-in-law was pregnant, his sister, that was like his, like, no, he didn't want to feel the babies move or feel the belly while they move, which I think he's going to be really freaked out. I haven't really shown him any pictures of like twin bellies, like when twins like move and shift and they like look weird. So like you get like the cone belly, or like one side's up and the other one's like slanted. Haven't really shown him those pictures yet, so he's going to be really grossed out at some point. And I'm pretty sure these little kiddos, how they act, are going to do it to scare their father. So, I mean, I condone that in the womb. They can go ahead and scare him from the womb, but just not outside the womb, because he's kind of accident prone. So, but yeah, basically just wanting to sleep and have no energy, and drink water. I can drink about 10 of these a day at this point. I drank a whole gallon of water the other day at work within 4 hours, and people were like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, just drinking for 3. My insomnia has been at its all-time worst. I had kind of a stressful week where I had a lot of work to do between my 2 jobs, and that really wore me out, but it didn't wear me out enough to let me sleep. The pregnancy insomnia still kept me awake, so I looked like shit at work one day, and somebody came into my office. It's one of our little younger staff members, and brought me something to drink, and he doesn't speak a lot of English, and he basically just said, you know, my mom said that, you know, pregnant people need to drink a lot of water and stuff like that, and he's like, and you look a little down, he said, so I thought maybe a Gatorade would help. I started crying in my office. He scurried out, like, because I started like full on bawling, and my other coworkers came in who were women, and I was trying to explain to them what happened, because the poor little guy was afraid. But as soon as I got out what happened, they reassured him that I was okay, that I was just crying because he was being nice. And he was just like, yeah, probably the last time I'm being nice to a pregnant lady. No, he's been super sweet. So, but besides people commenting on how large I already am, and then being like, how much longer do you have? And they're like, oh. They're like, I feel bad for you. And I'm like, yeah. Thanks. But, which is totally good. But now that I've literally sat here and filmed these back to back, I'm ready for a nap. And it's only 4.